grandkids, it gets real busy.
Yeah. I don't have any of them yet.
Yeah. Kind of. Kind of five. I got five. My son. Stepson. She's 20. So she's and of course, Meredith and Chad have two. Just turned 4 Saturday. 4 going on 40. And then the other two, Alexander and Asher. Well, she doesn't stand a chance with me. She's done. Chaos.
Yeah. One day.
Oh, did you hear me on the radio? Sorry about my audio.
They kept playing that.
Which one had said that?
No, they played that over.
Man, I came by better coverage than Kenna. They said, well, they said, what do you want to talk about? I said, I don't know. I said, what's news in the food? I said, well, I'm for real. I said, why we get the scoop on? You want it to do worse. They keep running. Let her down.
Good evening. We're calling the meeting to order. Since this is the first meeting of the Planning Commission for 2020, we are going to go through the process of election of president and vice president. So I'm just going to read through the bylaws in that part. Section 1, officers. Annually at the first regular meeting of the Planning Commission held in the month of January, Planning Commission shall elect a president and a vice president. President shall preside at all meetings of the Planning Commission and at other meetings and public hearings called by the Planning Commission. The president shall call special meetings when required and shall transmit reports, plans, and recommendations to the Planning Commission to the appropriate governing authority and shall act as a spokesperson for the Planning Commission. The president will duly appoint those committees as prescribed by the bylaws of the Planning Commission and may create such other committees as necessary to conduct the business of the Planning Commission. The vice president shall serve as chairperson in the absence or disability of the president. In the event of a death or resignation, the vice president shall perform the latter's duties until such time as the Planning Commission shall elect a new president. So at this time, are there any nominations for president of the Planning Commission?
Move to keep the same slate of officers. Second.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
As long as Linda's not. We were appointing by acclamation.
Are you appointing both?
Both the president and vice president, yes.
Okay. The officers will remain the same for the year 2020.
Congratulations, Madam President.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your vote of confidence. Or is it for your vote of, I don't want to do it, you do it?
Yeah, sometimes it's what you get for showing up at a meeting.
That's right, that's right. Okay, thank you, Heather. Wish all of you a very happy new year and hope that in 2020 we can move forward and have a nice round session to where we all can commingle and get things done to the better of Berkeley County. Sarah, would you please give the roll call?
Here.
Present?
Here.
Present.
Present.
Here.
Here.
Quorum's present. Have approval of the agenda. If you notice, there is item 7B has been removed from the agenda. So if you want to give me a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Deal. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The motion. Okay, now we have the Sunshine Law speakers. Is anyone signed up? Next item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goff, second by Ms. Norton to approve the minutes as submitted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Now we'll begin our public hearings. First item is BFS Convenience Store.
This public hearing is for a sketch plan advancement for BFS Convenience Store, file number 45-19. The developer is BFS Companies. The engineer is Fox & Associates. It's in the Falling Waters District, map 14, parcel 70, located at the intersection of Hammonds Mill Road and Vantage View Drive. The project proposes a 3,828 square foot convenience store and 2,904 square foot Dairy Queen on 1.99 acres to be served by public water and sewer. The developer is requesting an exception to section 705 to not install sidewalks, as there are no sidewalks in the vicinity. County Engineer Dirk Stansberry issued a letter of completion on December 4th, stating that the sketch plan meets the requirements to advance to the preliminary stage. Staff recommends granting the sidewalk exception, and with that, the plan meets the requirements of the ordinance, and staff recommends advancing to the preliminary plan stage.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Good evening, Steve Sianovich, representing the applicant.
Like I said, this is a public hearing. If you have questions or comments regarding the project, now's your opportunity to make those comments known. If you'd please come forward, state your name and your comments that you might have. We'll see if we can get them addressed.
Move public hearing be closed.
Let the record show that there's no public comments. Motion by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Sianovich or of the staff?
Looking for a recommendation or a motion?
Yes, sir.
Move we accept staff recommendation and granting the sidewalk exception, as well as moving the sketch plat to the preliminary plat stage.
Do you want those in two separate motions, Heather, or do you want them,
Okay, first one will be to grant the sidewalk exemption.
Second.
and second by Mr. Goff? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Now you can do it the second.
And I move to grant the preliminary plat approval from the sketch plan stage.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker and second by Mr.
Goff.
Goff again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Stone Mill.
This public hearing is a request for major plan change approval for Stone Mill, file number 29-06. The developer is Dan Ryan Builders, West Virginia LLC. The engineer is Fox and Associates. It's located in the Opequon District, map 17, parcel 1, on the north side of Swan Pond Road and the west side of Rocky Marsh Run. The developer is proposing 25 single-family lots on approximately 96 acres to be served by private well and septic. This major plan change proposes the relocation of drainage easements, causing the previously approved lots to be revised. No waivers or exceptions have been requested. County Engineer Dirk Stansberry issued a letter of completion on December 11th, 2019, stating that the major plan change meets the requirements. Since the major plan change meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, staff recommends approval of the major plan change.
Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Steve Stianovich with Fox and Associates, representing the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is a public hearing for Stone Mill, and it is regarding a plan change. If you have questions or comments, please come forward, state your name and the comments that you might have.
Public hearing be closed.
Second.
With no comments, motion made by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Smith, to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Stianovich or of the staff? If there are no questions, could we have a motion?
Motion accepts staff recommendations for approval of the preliminary final plan. Second.
Motion by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation and to approve the major plan change for Stone Mill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you.
Thanks again.
That concludes our public hearings. Next item on the agenda is preliminary final plat approval, David McGill.
Yes, the project is David McGill, file number 47-19. The developer is David McGill. The consultant is DeMagno Consulting. Gerrittstown District, map 21, parcel 65. The property is located on West Virginia County Route 30/1, approximately 0.3 miles north of West Virginia County Route 45/8. This project proposes the creation of one lot consisting of 8.66 acres and one residue lot consisting of 31.36 acres to be served by private well and septic. The county engineer, Dirk Stansberry, issued a letter of approval on December 9th, 2019, stating a review of the above-mentioned project had been completed and was found to be in compliance with the subdivision ordinance. The project is found to be complete in compliance with the 2009 Berkeley County subdivision regulations, and therefore staff recommends approval of the preliminary final plat.
Do you have anyone to represent the project?
Yes, Andy DeMagno, I'll represent Mr. McGill.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. DeMagno or of the staff?
If there's no questions, I move we accept staff recommendation and move the approval of the preliminary final plat.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker, second by Mr. Goff, to accept the staff recommendation and to approve the preliminary final plat for David McGill lots. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Andy. Communities of Burwell North.
Berkeley County file number 21-06. The developer is Burwell Properties LLC. Surveyor Roberts Land Surveying. Falling Waters District, map 13, parcel 10.4. The project is located on secondary route 8, 1 mile from Knighttown. The final plat proposes the development of 10 single-family lots on approximately 3.7 acres to be served by public water and sewer. No waivers or exceptions have been requested for this phase. County Engineer Dirk Stansberry issued a letter on December 19, 2019, stating that a review of the above-mentioned project was completed and found to be in compliance with the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance. The final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends final plat determination and advertising of a public hearing for consideration of final plat approval at the February 3rd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
Do you have anyone to represent the project?
Good evening, Mike Roberts, represent the project.
Excuse me. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Roberts or the staff?
If there are no questions, I move we accept the staff recommendation and we advertise for the final plat for approval for February 3rd, 2020. Second.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation and to consider final plat approval and public hearing on February 3rd, 2020. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Yep. Thistle Landing, Section C.
Thistle Landing, Section C, Phase 4, lots 16 through 25, Berkeley County File Number 20-15, Developer Thistle Landing Holdings, LLC, the surveyor Roberts Land Surveying, Mill Creek District, map 17, parcel 34. The project is located at the intersection of Specs Run Road, West Virginia Route 28, and Fagan Road, West Virginia Secondary Route 28/1, approximately 0.75 miles from US Route 11, The final plat proposes the development of 10 single-family lots on approximately 6.4 acres to be served by public water and sewer. No waivers or exceptions have been requested for this phase. County Engineer Dirk Stansberry issued a letter on December 27, 2019, stating that a review of the above-mentioned project was complete and found to be in compliance with the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance. The final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends final plat determination and advertising of a public hearing for consideration of final plat approval at the February 3rd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
Do you have anyone to represent?
Mike Roberts, represent the project.
You're the 10-lot guy tonight, aren't you?
10 lot, yeah. Nice round number.
Nice round number, yeah. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Roberts or the staff regarding the project?
Simple. So I'll take staff recommendation and approve the final plat and have the public hearing for February 3rd, 2020, Planning Commission meeting. Second.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation, consider final plat approval of the February 3rd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting at the final plat approval public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Go look for another 10 lots, Mike. Keep you busy. That basically concludes our business for the night. Now we have council discussion and the memorandum that we received regarding the open governmental procedure.
Okay, the document included in your packet is an overall policy for open meetings and agenda posting that was generated by County Council. There are some items, since we meet as well as a planning commission, within this document that apply to these gatherings as well. So if you could flip through to Article 8, where it talks about meeting procedures. The very first item listed under that states, all meetings will be live video streamed and the archived video recording placed on the county's website within a reasonable period of time at the conclusion of the meeting. So this was just an opportunity for me to let all of you know that we are doing that for these meetings. When you see Sarah over at the computer in the corner, she's doing all of the setup for it, and we do have cameras that are recording and broadcasting. So we're actually on YouTube at the moment, and they, go ahead.
That found?
If
I was
you,
looking on our, just trying to find it.
if you go to Berkeley County main website, the calendar in the lower left-hand corner, when you click on today's date, it will have all the different meetings listed, including ours. So it has our agenda, and then the read ahead, and then to the right of that should be live video.
You got that right.
We have a YouTube channel. Is there a YouTube channel?
It is a YouTube video. That's where I default to our IT folks. I don't know if you can actually go, if you went onto the website and probably searched Berkeley County Planning Commission, I imagine it would direct you to
So
it.
it'll say, 'cause right now it doesn't say watch it. Right.
Because we're currently live. So as soon as it's finished, the recording would be there. It
Where can you watch it live?
should be the same location.
On YouTube somewhere?
I don't know if it'd be on YouTube, but we do live streaming through the Berkeley County Council.org. May be able to find it there. Trying to think about it. Sometimes the live streaming of the Wi-Fi in here is not the best in this room, so it's kind of hard to get it.
Right. And same for our corner of the building. Mhm.
Oh, it's on YouTube. I just want to make sure I'm not here. No, I didn't know where, somebody asked me before.
Yeah.
Where-
I got some bright red lipstick if you want.
I got a question for legal about it. Should we at least put on a monitoring here that people in the audience may be subject to videography and live streaming,
Make them-
as make them aware of it when they enter this room? Okay. I'm sorry.
I think it's helpful as a general rule to have that awareness.
Especially on one of these monitors in here, so when we do have a public hearing, it's,
Right.
People understand that, we can,
So for the
You're
public's
recorded.
benefit, we need to put it up on the wall. You are being televised.
right up on one of our monitors here.
I was thinking like,
Right behind, well, you can do the pull-down screen.
yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know, just maybe a disclaimer, because I actually attended a function. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think it probably, like I said, I did attend a function that it was videography, but it was not live streamed. And it had a big disclaimer up there, when you enter this building, you're subject to videography and possibly live streaming, with or without your consent. So if you do not wish to be videoed, then please contact somebody. Yeah, we're gonna move you too. But that's just my question. Maybe get with Gary, and maybe he can do it on our moving, scrolling boards out here. When somebody even walks in, anything that's,
Yeah, for evenings, I'm not sure how many people actually look at those before they come in here.
if that was the only thing that was on it.
Oh, yeah.
But we do have one viewer at.
Thanks, Nick. How do I look?
That's everything I had.
I'll
for
pay
this
you
one.
later.
Do you have anything else?
That's all.
Mr. Blake, do you have anything for us?
I do not have. There is a project where I will say that. I have volunteered to help. I volunteered to help Heather and her team revise the subdivision ordinances that you've been working on for the last couple of years. And we're meeting with the department heads about this. And I think that in the coming weeks and months, especially on light agendas like tonight, they might want to start feeding some of the different sections to the planning commission. I think that there are some things that we could do that are beneficial that I've already seen. Like, for example, your subdivision ordinance declares like a major subdivision anything more than 2 lots, which basically makes everything a major subdivision. And that is not common. A lot of times anything that's under 5 lots is declared a minor subdivision, which is more administrative in nature and is reviewed as one step by staff, and staff can approve that instead of everything being a major subdivision. And then therefore you can take out the sections like family transfers and stuff like that because it automatically becomes a minor subdivision, which is administrative. You don't have to worry about the enforcement mechanism of does the family member sell in 5 years. Heather's told me in the past that you've had people that have transferred their properties to their 2-year-old just to get away from the major subdivision definition. But that's something that 8.8 allows. And I would highly recommend that we look at increasing the number of lots that would be allowed for a minor subdivision. A couple other things that we're looking at is, and I've just been to 3 meetings, but there is little reason to have a public hearing at a final plat stage. That should be moved to the beginning of the process of where the public actually has input. By the time that you're talking about a final plat stage, they can have developers can have an early grading permit by then, or they're actually moving dirt. And a final plat, frankly, is ministerial in nature. If all the boxes are checked, really, the planning commission has no authority but to accept that. So, you have a public hearing, and it appears, there's frustration because it almost is like it appears that you're not listening to the public, where in fact they have met all of the criteria for a minor plat. So if we could upfront the public hearing stage, and so really the land under 8A, it's called the land development plan and plat. So you'd have the sketch plat, which is concept, which you would have public hearing. Then the land development plan and plat, which would have basically all of the construction drawing, the engineering drawings, with a public hearing, and that's where the vested rights, the 5-year vested right, would attach. And the developer has to have 5 years from the time with the applicant, I use applicant, it could just be an individual. They'd have 5 years to record their plat from the time that land development plan and plat is approved, or they lose their development rights and have to start all over again. There's just some changes like that that I think would be beneficial. The other thing that we're talking about is, instead of having all the engineering standards contained in the subdivision ordinance itself, to create a Berkeley County Engineering Standards Manual that the subdivision ordinance references. And the whole goal to that would be for the county to adopt engineering standards, and then hopefully eventually get those on the website, either in CAD format or PDF or both, so that engineers are pulling over those standards into their plans, so that it's the same standard, sidewalk standard, 4 inches in depth, rebar or fiber, in order to try to streamline the review process, and also to make sure that when engineering standards are changed, that frankly they don't go through an entire ordinance process. If something changes where a culvert or standard or something that needs to be changed, that can be done in the engineer standards manual. So that's something that, with Norwood still here, and it gives me some time to work on this subdivision regs, which is a pretty big project for Heather and Brian and their team. I have volunteered to try to help move that forward, and while I would like to, I think it's better off to bring it all at one time for approval, not just in sections, because it all goes together. I think that we can start discussing pieces of it as we move along, and then approve it all at one time. I think it's a mistake to approve it just in articles or chapters, because it all really reads together.
Well, you don't have any continuity, or you can't be assured of continuity whenever you do section
Right.
here, section there, and continuity is very important
Very.
as you develop property. Yeah, I've been around a long time, I'm ashamed to admit it, but around a long time, and we used to only have one public hearing, okay? And that was at the preliminary plat stage. You're calling it land development, something or other now?
So I think that right now you're calling it the sketch plan.
No.
I mean, the very
We
first,
used-
the very
first
first.
sketch. Preliminary. Yeah,
Yes.
we used to only have one. We were
Yes.
told that according to code, we had to have two. So we put it at the, or it was put at the sketch plat, which there's no information really available to people when they come in here. And then again at the final plat, when everything's already done.
Right.
And it's frustrating for the people.
Right.
Frustrating for the council here, or the commission here, to hear their points of view whenever there's nothing done. Like last meeting, I think the people that were here for the sketch plat for that project out there on Tinsman Lane, we knew nothing. The engineer knew nothing because it was still in sketch plat stage.
Right.
And they were frustrated when they left here. They thought we weren't listening to them.
Right.
and
And that's why I'm trying to maybe so under 8A, under 8A really, it reads as though you'd only have to have one land development plan and plat. It reads like you just have to have one. That is not good planning. That is not good engineering. But what I'm saying is, so yeah, the first step is the sketch plan or the concept plan, which is the situation you saw, where basically where the engineer and the developer hears and gets some insight early on the process before they have spent a lot of money on engineering. Then they get that feedback, they talk to staff, they talk with the planning commission about their ideas, and then it allows them to move forward to what I'm calling the land development plan and plat, which is consistent with 8A, which is the vesting land use document. Once that is approved, then that developer has the green light and vested rights, so any change that's made in the subdivision ordinance or anything like that cannot affect their vested right.
And so is that what you're suggesting?
The public hearing,
give
right.
Give me that number of words that you just said. Land what?
Land development plan and plat. Short, it will be the LDPP.
Land development
So
plan.
you'll change that to that from what we currently call preliminary plats.
The preliminary plat will now be called the LDPP, the land development plan and plat.
Well, that makes sense.
And then we'll move to the final plat. The other thing that I think that, and I've written a new template, when a final plat is approved for this commission, then it will go with a development agreement that attaches the surety. In the final plat, the development agreement and the surety will all be recorded. So that if you're a third-party purchaser that goes and wants to buy a lot in an unfinished subdivision, you can go right down to the courthouse or online and you can see the final plat, the development agreement, how much it's bonded for, and the worksheet that shows what, and the development agreement is what attaches the surety. Now, something that, in this, I heard this in the first meeting about it takes forever to take, these subdivisions can go forever. Well, that's not actually the case. On the bond worksheet, which actually we've incorporated into the development agreement, each phase of development that's recorded, or the whole thing, the infrastructure must be completed within 27 months, with a one-time extension up to 39 months, where the bond can be called. So it's not a forever thing. Now, that makes the developer have to really realistically think, how much of this should I final plat at a time? So that's for a few reasons. First of all, there's some certainty to the homeowner that their phase is going to be done. It ensures that if someone does a line of credit, that line of credit is still good. We're running into the issue that sometimes a line of credit expires, and the legal department has tried to advise the planning department that if a line of credit becomes due on December 31st, to write a letter in November and say, It appears that your line of credit is coming up for expiration on December 31st. If you do not get your renewal of your line of credit by within 30 days, 15 days, we will call the line of credit, because we cannot wait until the day that it expires or the day after it expires.
We've been doing that. We've been doing that, haven't we?
For the most part.
Oh, okay.
They are sending great letters.
Jargon. But there's a difference between a letter of credit and a surety and an insurance bond.
Yes.
So that's what we have to clarify.
And all the letters of credit should be irrevocable. They all have usually they have an expiration, but a irrevocable line of credit.
And we've also put in the original signature of the letter of credit that if this credit is not renewed within 30 days of its expiration, it will be called within 15 days of its expiration.
That's the step that we have clarified. Instead of waiting on the day that it expires or the day after.
They know up front when they sign it.
Right.
See what I mean?
It has to be back in court.
Yeah. I thought so. That's why I remember.
I do believe that, I think there's a lot of things that we can do, but I really do not, I do think that it's just a source of frustration from everybody in just observing about this public hearing at the very final plat stage. Because at that point, the developer has spent so much money, there's nothing that can be done. The input that you're receiving, so let's move the input to where it actually matters. Where the public actually has to say, the developers and the engineers have the ability to actually change.
Linda, refresh my memory. Years ago when we was on it before I was elected, wasn't that a process that we had?
We had the public hearing only at the preliminary plan stage.
Yeah.
And it was brought to everyone's attention that I've already spent thousands and thousands of dollars developing this preliminary plat, and now I have to go back and change it.
Right.
So that's why the public hearing was moved from one public hearing to two public hearings. But both of the public hearings are worthless.
I think having a sketch plat though is the reasons that you said.
Well,
And the one on Tinsman Lane was a good example, because by the time they've come in here with sketch plat, that engineering firm is already started on. They have, so they can answer and they can know some of these things. But to get at the stage here, the input from the public, I agree. That's where it needs to come.
when you have a public hearing and you have no information at the sketch plat stage, which they say, you say they're working on it, they say they don't know it. You heard Jamie.
Well, let me ask this.
We actually hadn't started grading until after the sketch plan had been the previous meeting. There was no grading or any stormwater calculations.
Let me just add a little bit to that. Let's say I've lived here all my life, and I've helped build my dad's properties and, infrastructure. I've never taken on any huge job that, for hire. I've always done all my own. And whenever we came in with, our idea to do something, I felt like that, I could bring my plan in a sketch without having a whole lot of money invested in engineering that. Is that still acceptable? Would that still be acceptable?
The concept sketch really is, and I used to be on the other side and talk to developers, like, this is not engineering heavy. This is like the drawing on the napkin to show this is the concept.
And that can be done pretty quick. If I brought you a plat of my property, and I just say, okay, I got 11 acres, and I want 15 campsites.
Yeah, that can be done pretty quickly.
Well,
Yeah,
there was
I
a
thought
time
so.
when we did have, it was concept meetings and it was staff only. And you had engineering, you had developers.
There's stack meetings. We used to call them
Yeah.
stack meetings.
Do you still have those meetings, Heather?
When asked for.
But you've gone a little bit further than a concept.
So what we need to do is, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
When we-
And that's why you do that.
When we make the amendments, we need to make sure that there's enough information at the concept sketch plan to give an idea of what's going on, but not so engineering heavy that you're spending a whole bunch of money. That's not the point of the sketch concept. Now, the land development plan or plat, the LDPP, that's basically another word for the construction drawings. That's going to have all the nuts and bolts. That is the plan that's going to be that this is it. I mean,
If there's an application to be drawn up or a new one, you know, for a sketch plat application, that's where the developer puts all his ideas, you know, in like details of what he wants to do. I have 11 acres, I have X, Y, and Z. I want public water sewer here, it's available. I live on a 60-foot right-of-way, I can do this interior, I can do this exterior. You know, this is my plan. Useful lights, then I'll just throw a number out there, 45. That's what my sketch plan would be even without a drawing. You know, I could bring that sketch plan in, say this is what I'd like to do, and then,
So you just have a tax map.
yeah, just have a tax map and just say, you know, it's my plat. I want 45 lots. I have all this. I've met all the criteria to do that. Now my next step is if I want more than that, then I have to either have I hate to say waivers because they've become too consuming, I believe.
that's the other section that seriously needs to be looked at,
Yeah.
the waiver section. And it needs,
Yeah.
it frankly needs,
Detail, yeah.
yeah, and Heather has some good ideas about that.
But I guess what I'm saying is if I came in as, you know, small time person that owns property that I want to do, I've got X, Y, and Z, and this is what I want to do on it. Before I hire somebody with AutoCAD, before I hire somebody to take my plat in, I can come that in for a concept. And let's do concept approval, then it's sketch plat. You know, the concept is I've got this much acreage and this is what I can do with it. Now, for me to go to sketch plat, is this viable and I met all the criteria? And you all would answer that. And then say, I'll take my concept then to sketch plat. That, you know,
Yeah,
would that be
yeah,
too
I mean-
cumbersome?
I mean,
Would that be, I know it's an extra step, but however, I don't have, you all can answer those questions whether or not what I want to do, I can do with that piece of property.
I think we're already doing it.
Okay, I just haven't had to do it yet myself.
Right, at what point, there's a lot of work being done before it even becomes,
Sketch.
so,
Okay.
so what you're talking about with regard to the concept, I would almost, like that, like a general narrative,
Mhm.
that could be an administrative function.
Correct.
We do that now.
Right.
It's not, it's us talking to the people. It's like,
Okay. Concept. Description. Yeah.
separate from.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but what Andy's talking about is having these answers for the public whenever they come in for the public hearing, right?
I think that you've hit, so there's the concept plan discussion with the general narrative that can go on with the staff. And then the staff can say, well, here's the parameters of what you have to do. And on that concept sketch plan that comes before you, that has the public hearing, after their meeting with the staff, if they choose to have a meeting with the staff, I think that there could be enough information presented to provide the global picture to the public to go then to the real engineer. The case that you mentioned earlier, basically we've gone from the really broad concept plan until the next time that there's any interaction whatsoever is the final plat when it's too late.
When
And
all
that's
your I's
just
have been
not-
dotted and T's have
Yeah,
crossed.
it's just too late. It's too late.
Yeah.
Which is incredible
think we-
frustration amongst everybody.
Yeah, we've always felt that,
Yeah.
but that's how it's been set up in the
In the ordinance.
in the ordinance, and, you know,
It was my understanding it's because of the code. They said the code, we had to have another public
had to
hearing.
have two.
Yeah.
You have to have a public hearing to approve the plat. 8A uses land development plan and plat. So we're going to put all the requirements that where it has that public hearing in the land development plan and plat stage. The final plat is really just frankly the document that carves it up into
Sellable lots.
sellable lots. And at that point, where
Meets
it's
and bounds.
recorded, all the infrastructure, either A, needs to be completely done and certified, or B, bonded and secured.
So you're saying back to one public hearing?
I think, no, I actually think that you could have the public hearing at the concept sketch plan and at the land development plan and plat,
So you're saying still
and then at
two?
the final plat stage, it's ministerial.
Yeah,
There should be no guessing game amongst, once you get to a final plat, there should be no guessing game as to whether or not, if you've checked all the boxes of whether it's going to be approved. It really, it's like annexation, it's ministerial. I mean, it's basically what you're approving is to approve it to be recorded in the land record. And the bond, yeah,
Well, I think if we get rid of the public hearing at the final plat stage, I think that would make the public happier, because they will feel, or I think they'll feel like they are being heard and their concerns being addressed before that final.
And
plat.
maybe that's what we'll call, or could be called at the concept sketch plat public hearing. And then people in the audience, if they do have concerns, they have to understand that this is concept. This is not.
I tried to explain that to them
I
last
know.
meeting, but they didn't want to hear. They thought we just weren't listening to them. And
So could we go down to one public hearing? We have to have the two.
I'd still say if we had the two, like, and do a concept sketch plat,
The
Mike?
concept plan could be to have the public have their concerns heard, but their concerns would not be addressed by the engineer. They're just heard. Then at this proposed new meeting, public hearing, that's when concerns can be addressed. Because now
and that's when the engineer
work is
can even
done.
have that list of concerns that he's
Right.
been given by the public, that he says, no, I've addressed these
He now-
concerns.
and then also the engineer now knows, he knows what's going to happen with the stormwater.
so
Well-
all those in
He or
favor,
she.
aye.
well,
Yeah, because
Address that prior to the public
Yeah,
comment.
I think that's a
Public
much,
comment and then
Yeah,
public
yeah,
comment
I
can
think
address,
that's
could be addressed at the second meeting.
that's a
It
much
didn't know-
smoother way of
And they can still make
managing the
comments at
development.
the second meeting as well.
the final,
But after the engineer does it.
But then the engineer can address the comments after.
in the final concept that I'm wrestling with, which I will be wanting to get your input, is if we move to the engineering standards manual, which really, I mean, the subdivision ordinance is how you plan it. The engineering manual is how you build it. And it's really two completely different things. But the reality is that every time an engineering standard is changed, and this is why I think it should be referenced in the subdivision ordinance as an animal to itself, every engineering change shouldn't necessarily be an ordinance change. You know, if a culvert detail is changed, the way the ordinance is currently kind of set up, it has to go through the whole ordinance process through you and the county council. If we could have some kind of check to say, okay, engineering details will be presented at the planning commission, but if the planning commission doesn't take action within a certain number of days, they're automatically approved. So therefore, kind of like civil service rules. Civil service rules are, if no action is taken, they're automatically adopted. So what does that do? It allows you to have the process to have oversight over, let's just say an engineering standard comes that every street has to be paved in concrete. Well, it gives you the right to say no, but it also, if we do an engineering standards manual where not everything has to be ordinance changed, it becomes so burdensome and allows the engineers to actually engineer, then that takes all the stuff out of the subdivision regs and gives the county engineer the ability to do his job while also giving the planning commission oversight And so that language, I kind of still want to talk to Heather and Brian about to kind of wrestle with how should we do that to at least get you oversight to say, maybe we do it as, if you don't take action within a certain number of days, it's automatically adopted. So that's kind of where my thinking is on that. And then the engineering standards manual can be put online, and then all the professionals can pull the standards. Like, the state has 4 types of ADA ramps, and they have a standard. And you put them online, and that CAD drawing can be poured over.
Cut and paste it or whatever.
That's right.
Well, I don't think the CAD drawings are included, but, right, they had the PDFs there.
And then eventually,
That's taken a lot from any kind of government contract I've worked on. The engineering is just cut and paste or copy and paste something on a drawing that they've,
already done.
and then I have to give shop drawings on how I'm gonna do it. And that's really cumbersome too, but that's.
So what it does in the long run is it also will cut down on the review process. So as all the standards are pulled, then they're going to see the same standard over and over and over again. And that, they can use they can propose their own standard, but then that's going to take longer to review. If you use the standard that's already pre-approved, then you expedite it.
And then that would, if they wanna use their own, then that's where a waiver request would have to almost take place.
At the last planning commission meeting, we were given street standards. I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to look at them or not. I looked at them. I have questions on them, just a few minor questions where it says should. I think it's shall. And then, again, it's bits and pieces of the regulation, and it's just a little cumbersome to work with.
Yes.
And then I've given it to Heather. I'll never see it again. So she's in her hands. I don't have it anymore.
Well,
She's got to have to make those changes and question Dirk, who I guess wrote it.
right. And so that's where, after that conversation, I'd like to move that stuff to
The engineering
a
document.
standards manual.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
referenced by the
that's
subdivision
the
ordinance.
street standards that he's
Right.
given us. And yeah, if we don't have to implement them, that takes a big burden off of us, unless I'm looking at it wrong.
No, I'm not, and I'm not looking at.
And wouldn't that be easier for a plan review that if I, they would if I had an engineering company submitted and they took from my engineering document or, my plan approvals that we have already approved, and I'd say, okay, my interior streets are gonna be X, Y, and Z, and I pull it from our document. When y'all review that and you see that that's already been done, so you're not entrenched in details that day.
And Dirk has started some of that. Make sure that as
Is that gonna bog down the process, though, of the development? If it goes into engineering and there's not enough people in the engineering department to review those plans?
But they're reviewing them now.
you already have that. You have your checklist. You have your.
But
I
if
think
you,
it'd be more,
if you have a standard, though, that you're talking about, a new standard, is that going to cause a more of a?
the detail.
Visual detail. We have in our
On a deck page.
Yeah.
It'll be more considered on a deck page,
Right.
dedicated pages.
Like if you have a standard template and you have a table of contents, then each engineer that comes in here knows what page to put in stormwater management plan, instead of them going through the 200 pages trying to search where the plan.
Now do that to some extent.
Okay.
There are genres.
So So that's a lot, those are just some things that in the last couple of weeks of reviewing this, that we've all been talking about, and then just, eventually want to come to you guys to get some input and some discussion, but I wanted to make sure that I let you know where we're kind of trying to head. Not only to reduce frustration amongst the public, but to reduce frustration amongst you.
How often does the DOH come into here for anything if we call them in? Do we have any? Dirk does, or Jim?
They physically don't. So, yeah, they don't physically come in.
Yeah, they're from
They're
Burlington.
in Burlington, West Virginia.
Mr. Yeah, or Lee Thorne? Alt, Larry Alt. Well,
How often are traffic studies done?
how often are it? Depends on the size,
Yeah.
mostly the size of the development. And
Anyone have any questions?
no, I just got questions more for the DOH than anything. That's, I have to play that card when I got a delegate or senator with.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I got it.
Anybody have anything else, or are we looking for an adjournment?
So moved.
All right.
All in favor, stand up.
Mr. Goff and second Mr. Deal to adjourn at 7,
Turn us off,
6:58.
because I got some more to say.
Not bad.
Sarah,
Compared to the last
turn
time.
us off.
First two I've been here.
Hey, Tim, can you wait a minute? Tim, you got a second?
No, not yet. That's all right.